What is this?
Don't drink it. Put it down. Read the note.
You're serious?
Dead serious. Leave now, please.
All right.
Don't touch that drink. The note trembled in his hand as he looked up to see the waitress staring at him, wide-eyed, terrified, begging him to understand without saying a word. Around them, the restaurant kept moving, but something darker pulsed beneath the surface. 3 men watched from the bar, their smirks tightening the air like a noose. Marcus didn't know why he'd been singled out, or why danger seemed to sharpen only when he walked in, but he felt the truth closing in. What really happened the night a waitress warned a CEO to flee his own dinner? Welcome, story lovers. Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. It began as an evening like any other, the kind that slipped quietly into routine without asking for permission. Marcus Ellison, a well-known tech CEO, had flown into a small southern town for a private investor dinner meant to strengthen a new community-based initiative. To him, it was another stop on a long calendar of responsibilities. Polished handshakes, careful conversations, and the kind of polite smiles expected from someone in his position. He moved through the world with a calm, measured confidence, shaped by years of hard work and the quiet resilience passed down through his family. But despite his achievements, Marcus had learned something early. The world didn't always see success when they looked at him. Sometimes it saw stereotypes before accomplishments, assumptions before humanity. Still, he tried not to let that shadow his experiences. He believed in progress, in bridges being built brick by brick. The restaurant chosen for the meeting was charming in the way old-town establishments often were. Warm lights, rustic decor, and a kind of slow, humming quiet that made visitors feel they had stepped back in time. Marcus appreciated the stillness. After days spent in boardrooms and airports, even a moment of peace felt like a soft exhale. He arrived early, hoping to review notes before the investors showed. The waitress who greeted him seemed nervous, though he didn't think much of it at first. People often recognized him from interviews, panels, or articles. Sometimes they were starstruck. Other times, simply curious. She led him to a table in the corner, her eyes flicking toward the bar more than toward him. Something in her demeanor felt uneasy, but Marcus dismissed it. Everyone had long days. Across the room, however, subtle glances traveled between a few men seated near the bar. Nothing overt, just looks that lingered a little too long, smirks that didn't quite hide what lay underneath. Marcus didn't notice the way the atmosphere bent around him, the way tension threaded silently through the air. Not yet, because regular evenings don't stay normal for long, not when silent warnings are forming behind the eyes of strangers. And danger is quietly working its way toward the table where Marcus now sat, unaware that his night was about to shift in a way he would never forget. Marcus tried to settle into the quiet corner of the restaurant, flipping through his presentation notes. At the same time, the soft hum of conversation filled the room. The investors were running late, but that didn't bother him. What did unsettle him, though he didn't yet understand why, was the slow, deliberate shift happening around him. The room's warmth seemed to thin, replaced by something sharper, something watchful. The waitress returned with a glass of water, but her hand trembled just enough for a droplet to land on the table. She murmured an apology, eyes darting toward the bar again, before she quickly walked away. This time, Marcus noticed. Her fear wasn't normal. Her movements weren't random, and the way she avoided looking directly at him, it was almost as if she was afraid someone else might see her do it. He leaned back, observing the room with fresh eyes. The men at the bar, 3 of them now, kept casting glances in his direction. Rough voices, low laughter, the kind that carried the weight of contempt rather than amusement. He recognized the tone, the energy. He'd heard it in boardrooms when someone underestimated him. He'd felt it in airports when security pulled him aside for the 4th random check. But here, it felt darker, less controlled. Less hidden, then came the first sign that something was terribly off. One of the men made a point of looking right at Marcus before whispering something to the bartender. The bartender nodded, grabbed a bottle from beneath the counter, and poured a drink that wasn't on any visible menu. Marcus didn't order anything yet. But a glass was being prepared anyway. The waitress appeared again, shoulders tight, face pale. She walked toward Marcus with slow, hesitant steps, as though each one pushed her closer to danger. She carried a small slip of paper hidden beneath the edge of the tray. When she reached his table, she placed the drink in front of him, amber liquid, too smooth, too intentional, and leaned slightly closer. Her voice didn't rise above a whisper. Her hand slid the folded note beside the glass, shielded from view by her body. Marcus felt his pulse pick up. The men at the bar were watching, waiting. The waitress's eyes met his for the first time. Wide, terrified, pleading. And that was when he finally saw it. Saw the truth in her expression, something urgent, something desperate enough to override fear. Marcus reached for the note, unfolding it under the table. 5 words stared back at him, written in shaking handwriting, "Don't drink it. Leave now." His stomach dropped. He glanced up and the waitress subtly shook her head. "Don't react, don't look alarmed." Her hand brushed his in a fleeting moment of warning before she stepped back. Across the room, one of the men stood from the bar, the scrape of his chair cutting sharply through the air. Another followed. Their movements were too synchronized to be a coincidence, too purposeful to be brushed off. Marcus's mind raced. Was he being targeted? Was this because of who he was? Because of the color of his skin? Or was it something worse? Something planned long before he set foot inside this restaurant? The waitress moved quickly toward the kitchen. The men moved toward him, and Marcus realized something chilling. Whatever was about to happen. He was already in the center of it. The air tightened. The room thinned, and danger took its final steps toward him, disguised as casual patrons and quiet malice, waiting for him to make one wrong move. Marcus pushed his chair back just as the first man reached the edge of his table. The room felt unbearably small, every sound magnified, the heavy boots approaching, the low mutter of voices, the clinking of glasses that suddenly sounded like warning bells. He rose slowly, hands visible, instincts sharpened by years of navigating spaces where he was watched before he was welcomed. The tallest man stepped forward, blocking the exit with his body. His expression held no disguise now, only the cold satisfaction of someone who believed he had full power in this room. Behind him, another man circled toward Marcus's side, cutting off any chance of slipping past unnoticed. The third stood by the bar, hand resting casually on something tucked beneath his jacket. Marcus felt the weight of the situation press down on his chest. This wasn't accidental hostility. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional, targeted, and fueled by something that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with the color of his skin and the fact that he had dared to walk into a room where they didn't think he belonged. Then, from behind the swinging kitchen door, the waitress appeared again. Her breath was shaky, but her resolve was stronger. She didn't call out or shout for help. Instead, she moved with deliberate speed, stepping between the men and Marcus with a courage that startled even them. The room froze, the tension snapping into something razor-thin and dangerous. For a moment, no one breathed. This was the breaking point, the moment everything would tilt one way or the other. Her voice trembled, but the words were steady enough to cut through the silence. "He's not alone. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments." The room shifted in an instant, the fragile balance of intimidation cracking as the kitchen door swung wider. 2 cooks stepped out behind the waitress, not armed, not aggressive, just present. Present enough that the men who had cornered Marcus suddenly found themselves outnumbered, their false confidence deflating under the weight of witnesses. The tallest man hesitated, his smirk fading as the bartender paused mid-polish, unsure whether to side with trouble or accountability. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His steady composure in the face of their hostility made them shrink back faster than any confrontation could have. The men exchanged glances, realizing the room was no longer theirs to control. One muttered something under his breath. Another kicked at the floor, and slowly, cowardly, they backed away, exiting through the same door they swaggered in through moments before. When they were gone, the restaurant exhaled as if it had been holding its breath all night. The waitress approached Marcus, her hand still shaking. She apologized, not for what happened, but for what almost happened. for what she'd seen too many times before, for what could have been another headline, another tragedy. Marcus thanked her, not with grand gestures, but with sincerity deep enough to leave an imprint. He left the restaurant knowing the night had changed him. Not broken him, but sharpened him. Reminded him that progress wasn't a finish line. It was a fight carried out quietly in small towns, in small rooms, in the hearts of those brave enough to intervene. This wasn't just one moment. It was a reflection of countless untold ones. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful stories.